level, that wood platform thing.
That's actually works as a buffer for sound for us.
Oh.
We had to build that up there.
There was like, I walked up there and there was a homeless person like shooting up, like in the middle of the day, and I was like, oh my god, and just heroin.
Yeah.
I'm like,
It's like, really?
okay.
And what happens if this guy nuts up? What do I do?
Oh, I was just like, all right.
Well, in the early days, I had to punch a kid out.
Really?
Seriously, and I'm not a violent guy, but don't push me.
Right.
I'm a New York Italian that just won't take your shit. And this guy kept pushing me. Who the hell you think you are? And I says, look, guys, cameras all over the place. My advice is, get the fuck out of here. What, are you going to call the cops? So I just took my stance, and he kept coming in on me. And I says, you better back off. What are you going to do, punk?
Sure, they love instigating.
Bam! I just cold cocked him right in the head.
Nice.
He went down, and his friends just, oh! And I says, you want more? Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
And they're thinking, oh, this skinny little dude, man, he's serious. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of them just like to get hot-headed and like see how far they can push you. They don't really, not really expecting you to do anything.
Right.
But yeah, there's a lot of gangs around here too.
I know. This area, matter of fact, in the 80s, when I first moved to this area, my dad would go, oh, you're near Pacoima? I go, what do you know about Pacoima? Well, that's San Fernando Valley, right? Porn city of the world. And prostitutes and everything else, especially. I go, how the hell do you know that? He goes, don't ask. It's like, great, Dad. But I mean, he knew about it back then. And this place was swarming with all kinds of shit. Now it's mostly the homeless, drug addicts, you know.
It's too bad.
It's
it really
sad.
is. Like, there was a couple times, for the longest time I didn't know this. I don't know how long it was back there, but when you go up to the parking lot behind where the train tracks are, like right literally behind where your studio is. I don't know if do you have doors that lead back
There
up
is
there?
a door that goes back there, and the lock has been busted before, and they were sleeping in that little hallway there.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
But I remember like looking back there a couple times last year, just like the huge, like they made an encampment back there.
Oh, yeah.
I was just like, holy shit.
That was common for a long time. Matter of fact, one time I went up there was a whole community living there. Smoke coming out of these makeshift structures. They're cooking their food
Holy
in there.
shit.
I mean, it was like, like Argentina. I mean, it was bad. And so I told Sandy about it. We called the police. Well, the police really couldn't do anything except tell them to move on.
Right.
We called the train company, the Pacific, I guess was, you guys have this property. What can we do about it? Well, you're just going to have to clear all the weeds out, and then they'll move on. Well, they didn't.
Yeah.
And then I came up about a week later, and it looked like somebody took a landfill and just filled the whole place.
Huh.
After that cleaned out, it's been pretty moderate. They're not camping out back there. But as soon as that bamboo grows up, everybody hides behind it. And they just keep coming back.
Yeah. Fuck.
This is not a fun area.
Yeah. It's too bad because like, it's been like, well, ever since I'm 37 and I've lived in the valley, like around the valley since I was about 20. Like I've just been hopping around, but I've seen all kinds of like crime and gang stuff, but I'm sure you've seen a lot more, but it's just, it's just sad because there's so many great businesses, and like this studio has such a great history. Right. It's just, it's like this little paradise in the middle of like a post-apocalyptic area. Yes. It's like, it's really, it's very strange because it's like getting here is like, oh my God. And then that on the corner now, that Burger King is like
it's a home now.
It's like an encampment. It's like totally taken over. And I was looking at it the other day. I was like, it's just getting worse and worse.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
well, now they've broken inside. So now God knows how many people are living inside there now.
Yeah.
Well, they did the same thing to the Galpin dealerships when the Mazda place went down.
Really?
There's a parking lot across from where the high-end cars are, the Jaguars and stuff, that they just shut down within days. They busted through the fence. They took the place over. Now I think they reopened it for other cars. But, I mean, for months and months and months, it was just a haven for drug addicts and gang members going in and out of there.
Damn.
it doesn't look like it's going to get any better.
Not anytime soon. Like
No.
it's, I know you've been here much longer than I, but ever since I've been here, it's just gotten worse. Like the area, and I've seen a
Oh,
lot.
were you here when we had Suge Knight's people here? I think you came in just after they.
I think, yeah.
They
well,
split.
Were they next to you?
Yeah, you know where the garage door is. They
Yeah,
were right next.
I think
there.
they were there
QB.
for like maybe a year, and then they left. I think I got like the last year of that, but yeah, I never experienced anything go down. Like, was there some action or what?
Well, remember that deal with the Suge Knight and this running somebody over with his custom pickup truck?
What?
It was in the news.
Oh,
They
no.
stored the truck next to where Shelby is,
Uh,
in that garage there.
Oh.
So they had that whole corner. And then one day, one of the owners of QB came to work, and a green Wagoneer Jeep pulls in. Two dudes get out of the car with pipes and beat the living shit out of him right in front of his door. One of my Foley artists who was working with me at the time, and James, heard the screaming, came out, and they saw him getting beat. They called the cops. As soon as that happened, those two dudes left and left him just bleeding in the parking lot.
holy shit.
Pretty severe head injuries and stuff like that. He survived, but I'm sure he's tweaked.
Right.
And after that, things kind of got weird. Everybody was like hiding out and stuff.
Yeah.
And I became good friends with one of the rap artists, this guy Reezy Rees. He was a crazy dude, but we had a connection. So I had a good relationship with them. I could walk in the studio and say, hey, guys, your 40 cycle bass is rocking my house.
Yeah.
You got to calm down. All right, Joe, don't worry, man. We got it. So I had a good relationship with them, but I had to really be cautious. Because one bad word, they'll send the troops out after you.
How long were they there?
About 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
And it was pretty chaotic. You come out at night and they had all their buds and their bros hanging out, drinking. On occasion after work, I would go out and have a sip with Rees and say, dude, watch out for my place. So I kind of had like a system working with them.
Yeah.
That they would leave us alone. We would leave them alone, show respect.
Right.
But when that Suge Knight stuff went down, I was like, these guys got to go.
So
They got to go. So eventually they found another studio because it was getting too hot here.
Yeah.
And moved on. And then Reezy ended up getting killed because he was messing around with some other dude's wife. It's like, it's bad. I mean, I'd walk in the back room and they've got AKs and assault weapons in the back just messing with them. And they had no problem letting me see it because they figured, well, he's one of us. And
Holy shit.
Maybe to a point.
So what did they just decide to take off on their own, or did Sandy intervene, or?
I think there was pressure from Sandy, but I think it just got to the point where they realized this isn't our environment. We don't really have a stand here, which is okay.
Yeah.
Move on.
Yeah.
I
normally just go ahead. I like that we just started getting into it right away, but I'm gonna like do an edit here. Welcome, Joe Sabella, to Home Is Where the Dark Is. Thank you for coming by and having a conversation. It's been cool getting to know you because I've been here for many years, and then we finally like made a connection, and then I saw our studio. So thanks for coming by to have a conversation, man. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me, man.
For sure.
It's pretty cool.
So you've been doing Foley for many, many years. I'm just curious, like, can you let me know and the listeners about how you got into it? Like, what was the steps to getting into it?
Well, I was at the time, back in the 80s? Yeah, mid-80s. I came to California for the record deal. I was in a lot of different bands back east, and then I came here, started getting into big hair bands, Competition was a little heavy. We were rehearsing at a place where Quiet Riot was rehearsing, Poison, a lot of those bands.
Yeah.
So we were in the middle of all that stuff back then. And it was going well. And then we had a gig with Poison at the country club one night. We kind of blew them away. They got a little pissed off. And one of their band members wanted to kill us, in a sense. They didn't like how well we did. So, as when that passed, I started thinking, I'm going, you know what? I love what I do. It's a lot of fun, but I'm getting older. And I was getting in my 30s, and I'm thinking, okay, I don't want to be the old dinosaur, musician, waiting on tables while I'm waiting for a deal. And, and now in those days, there was a lot of drugs. The lifestyle wasn't quite what I wanted. I was like past all that. It's like, I'm a big boy now.
Got
It's
over
about
it. Yeah,
business.
right.
It's not about doing drugs and messing with the groupies and all that stuff. So I started looking around for a gig. And I figured, well, the best business in LA is the movie industry, movie and TV. So I started, cruising around those places trying to get a gig. And I got a job with Carson and Clark with bloopers and practical jokes. It was a lot of fun. I built the sets, was transportation, for them and stuff like that. And it was kind of cool, but I didn't like the production idea.
Mm-hmm.
Sitting, waiting. You work real hard for 3 hours and then you're sitting for 4. And then you work real hard for another 3 or 4 hours. To me, it was just insane. I got to keep moving. So then I went to other companies. And then I found this gig as a production assistant at this place called Taj Soundworks. And that was like 89. So for about 3 years, I did the PA job, cleaning toilets, making coffee, running props and stuff like that. And I guess I did a good job because they gave me a choice. What do you want to do? You want to move up in here? Of course I do. Well, hang out on the stage. So I used to do live sound for the bands. I'd do a pre-mix, for the sound systems. So I basically knew what mixing was about. Well, sitting in the control room watching this poor guy record Foley on a 24 track, how frustrated he would get and how hard it was to get things in sync, especially on a 24 track. It was difficult. Plus, we were running 3-inch mag, which is only 3 tracks. So, transferring that and everything else, it was a nightmare. And I'm watching this poor guy, and I mean, he's smoking like 100 cigarettes a day, throwing stuff. And I'm like, nope, mixing wasn't this bad when I was in the band, but I understand why he was frustrated.
Yeah.
I started looking out the window, and I'm watching these guys, break things, throw car doors, breaking glass, doing all this great stuff. And I'm thinking, that's me. I'm active. I'm doing stuff. I'm not just sitting here pushing knobs, So I made a decision. I said, I'd like to do Foley. They put me out there, and I guess I did well because they started giving me my own shows after a couple of years, And it turned out to be a thing. It helped me with my creative juices. I actually found a home for my mind and body as far as how to work, picking sounds and stuff like that. And, since I was a musician, it all relates. So then they finally said, okay, great. I was a Foley artist with my mentor for about 3 or 4 years. And then one day he comes to me and he goes, it's time to move on. And I'm like, what? He goes, you're that good. You should go on your own. And at first I'm like, what, are you kicking me out the door? And as he put it, he goes, you're that good that we need to send other good people out in the industry to show what we can do.
I see. Okay.
There's a lot of hacks out there, just like every other business. And he really wanted to make sure I could carry that tradition over. So it was tough. Knocking on doors, I'm a Foley artist, sending out resumes, all this stuff. And it just so happened I hooked up with a company called Todd A.O. And they were like one of the biggest post-production houses in the industry. Their lineage was like Liz Taylor owned the place, Lucille Ball, they owned part of it. I mean, it had a great lineage. So I figured this is a great thing. Well, I had to work my way in past all the other Foley artists, and, all the political stuff that went along with it. And after years of that, it was good. Found a great partner. We had a great system going. Taddeo decides to go out of business. They folded. They got bought out by a number of companies, and finally it just couldn't go on anymore. So it was like a sinking ship. Everybody just jumped ship and dispersed all over town. That's when we went into our own company. And we had a studio in Burbank, which was horrific.
Why is that?
The building was terrible.
Okay.
So to soundproof it cost mega dollars. But we did the best we could on the budgets. Until finally, my mixer, James, came to this place to get his guitar worked on when Eric was next door.
Yeah.
And he sees a for rent sign. And at the time, there was this guy, Carl Honor, who lived downstairs, was the caretaker of the place. So James asked him, well, what's for rent? Is it this place? And he goes, no, we got a place in the back where Keith Olsen used to record. When he heard that, he just went, oh, my goodness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This could be really cool. And then, of course, learning about Sound City and everything else, I said, dude, we gotta be there. The atmosphere in the place, the feel, the old school studio. I mean, dude, we gotta get this place. So that was over 15 years ago. We moved in here, had our own business, and fortunately, our clients followed us. So we've been very, very lucky. It's not normal for a Foley artist to own his own studio for that long. Usually they realize how expensive it is, what it takes to keep it going, the money you have to put into the building, the instrumentation, all the equipment. It was like a lot of them can't keep it up.
So what's the norm then? Do most Foley artists, they rent out other studios for their gigs, or how does that work?
A lot of them do. They do, or they work for Universal or Warner Brothers. There's other post-production companies that are fairly large. They'll work for them. There's very few of them that actually have their own studio. Matter of fact, I know of two that
Gotcha.
are actually they're successful. But most people, they'll rent another studio, just go to a sound company and say, hey, I want to do Foley in your room. What's your rates? Kind of like that.
Gotcha.
We tried to stay on a very high professional level. We didn't want a lot of people do it out of their house, which in a way is really convenient. But when you're dealing with the pros, to them, that's not professional.
Yeah.
I'm not going to send my stuff to, Woodland Hills or whatever, some private house. I want to know that you got a professional situation.
Yeah.
So what I did when we moved in here is I styled our stage from all the high-end stages that I worked at. And most of them didn't have running water pits. They didn't have separate rooms for metal. It was all in these giant rooms, which is okay. I mean, if you can control the ambience of the room with baffles and everything else. But I said, no, I want something tight that can be real versatile. So I fashioned this room out of every other stage that I went to that had all this great stuff. And then we had an executive from Formosa come in. He was questionable. He was questioning us. It's like, yeah, okay, you got your own place. Yeah. Well, what proved to me we did the right thing is when he walked in the door and he's looking around, and he goes, this is way more than I expected. He goes, this is bitchin'. I love it. So that was our first sign. We hit a home run.
Nice.
And it's like, okay. And it's been awesome ever since. I mean, there's many, many years where we were working 6-7 days a week, 2 shifts a day. And then I'm talking to my peers, and it's like, well, how much work you got? Well, I got maybe like 3 shows. And I'm like, okay.
Wow.
Keep it quiet.
Yeah.
Don't be an egotist, just chill out.
So like the stars really aligned for you, like all the, the chances of him like coming over here to Eric's and then seeing that spot, certain things that happen in life that change your life forever on so many ways. But like if he didn't go to Eric's, you wouldn't be here, right?
Yeah, no.
So it's just that one little decision that changed your life forever, or someone else's decision.
I think a big part of it is you got to be really aware of what's going on around you.
Yeah.
And it's not just about you. I try to involve myself with people who are in forward motion, have a goal, know how to reach it. And yeah, you've got to just let everything go and just focus on that. Just really pinpoint your focus on it. A lot of sacrifice, but the end result is like I said, been here 15 years. And I'm at retirement age. I basically am retired. I'm not going to give it up. because it's fun. I
Right.
still love doing what I do. Plus, the creative process is, to me, is just like, it's boundless. It's just boundless. You know, I mean, I walk down the street and I'm hearing sounds and I'm like, wow, how can I recreate that? I go to a grocery store and I see people walking around and it's like, well, look at those shoes. You know, and I zone in on it, you know, and that's what I like about the gig. That's what I like about Foley. It's constant. you know.
Yeah, I love that because it's literally with audio in general. It's just endless learning. It's endless fun. It's endless. You know, that's why I think what also makes it so challenging too is like, you know, once you get to a certain point, you're like, wow, you know, I really I've done a lot of work, and you think you know you have a good grasp on things, and then you learn something else, and you're like, oh my god, I don't know anything, or like it just flips your world upside down. You're like, oh shit, it's very, very humbling industry from my experience, but
Yeah.
it's cool to hear that, you know, you do that, because I'm the same way with audio. Like, it's hard for me to turn off the analytical brain and just listen to a song instead of analyze, like, what tempo is it? What key is it? The snares are on the third beat of every measure and the blah, blah, blah. Like, I literally, when I have to turn that brain off, because like I
Yes.
worked on so much music that not only hearing it, but seeing it on a screen, like broken down into tracks for so many years, that when I hear a song, I see it
Yep.
on the screen. And like, and I'm
Yes.
sure that happens with you with Foley and
Yes.
sound
And your
design.
comment earlier about how it constantly changes, it's like every new show we get, I sit and wait. I go, okay, what's going to be different about this? Where's my challenge? And is this going to stretch my ability? And I look forward to that, because how else are you going to progress? You know,
Yeah.
and again, you just got to open yourself up to it. Get rid of all the crap. My biggest problem is I can't watch TV. I work
Yeah.
on so many TV shows that one Foley sound is out, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
what the heck are they thinking? What the hell's going on here? That's a hard thing to stop, you know, and especially when you've done so much. And, you know, I've won quite a few awards. Yay. But that's given me the energy to just keep cranking, you know. It's nice when somebody gives you an Emmy and say, hey, great job.
Of course.
You know?
Yeah.
And then all the times I've been nominated, I look at it this way. Everybody goes, well, dude, you only got 2 Emmys. Aren't you looking forward to the third one? I go, let me tell you
You
something.
only got 2.
Yeah, I only have 2. I said, let me tell you something. It's not that piece of metal.
Yeah.
What's important is I'm in the top 5 of every TV show out there. And that's consistent. So to me, that's the reward.
Of course.
Because
Yeah.
I keep my work ethic up, I keep professionalism up, and the quality,
Yeah.
and the detail. And that's something that people criticize me about, is my detail. I go way over the top. You
But
know.
who criticizes you
Oh,
about it?
people think you're crazy, man. What are you worried about all that little nuance stuff? I go, dude, that's what makes it happen.
Yeah, right. That's what your craft is. It's
Yeah.
all about the detail and the
It's not about
nuance.
the bulk.
Yeah.
It's about those special things you come up with that people go, whoa, that's the goal.
Yeah.
You know, not to impress them, but to show them it's limitless. It's
Yeah.
just totally limitless.
And when you mentioned, like, you know, winning awards, it's like I've also heard from people that have won Grammys and et cetera, like, it's when people see that attached to your name, like, there's this idea that yeah, of course it's a major accomplishment and it's a milestone and it puts you in a different category, but at the same time it also holds you up to that standard now. So like you can never, like, you're always held to that standard from
Yes.
that point on, no
Right.
matter what. And yeah, it's just, I've heard from, you know, producers and stuff, like, it's not always what it's cracked up to be, because it's like once you get that Grammy or whatever award you're aiming, it's like people think it's gonna completely, I mean, in certain situations, yeah, it can totally transform your life, but
Right.
it's a lot of them, what happens after you get that award is not really what you expect sometimes, especially for like for musicians or for producers. It's like, wow, okay, I got a Grammy, so I should be being flooded with work. I should forever.
Right, where is everybody?
Yeah, but then it's like you get that, or you get that big gig or whatever, get that big movie, that big record. And then when it's done, you're like, oh, what next? Or
Yeah.
like, where's all the offers? Like, why am I not being flooded with stuff? It's like, oh, okay. So, and obviously that some people experience that. But it just seems like it's just an award. Yeah. I think what's more important is that you just continue to do your best work and hold yourself to your own standards. And
Right.
as long as you know in your heart, you did your best and you're trying to keep learning and keep growing as an artist.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the most important thing. And then,
Well, it's very key.
yeah,
It's very key. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you're just like everybody else.
yeah,
You know, you're just hanging on.
yeah. When you decided to make the transition and move in to Sound City, obviously it was like, yeah, we need to get this, but we're at the same time, like when you said you just have to let everything go, like, was there a bit of fear as to like, okay, now I have these new expenses, and like now I have to get these gigs or I'm screwed. So was there a point where you're like a little scared or hesitant about that, or like, are you the type of person that you just have blinders and you just do it and you don't worry about it? You know what I mean?
I got to be honest, it was a little bit of both.
Yeah.
At first, I was like, oh my gosh, look at all, like you said, the expense. And I mean, we pay dearly for the rent in this place. I'm going to be honest. I wasn't a business person, very left-brainer. Just give me my art, let me do my music or whatever, let me be creative, I'm happy.
Yeah.
When we moved into here and then realized the responsibilities, yeah, it was an eye opener, and I was like, there was many times I was like had a lot of anxiety. It's like, oh God,
Yeah.
God. And then I just stopped and I go, wait a minute, how you got here is because of your work ethic, so focus on that. If you keep that going and keep the creative juices going and keep reaching your goals, don't worry about the rest of the stuff. All of that'll just fall into place.
Yeah.
And that's usually how life is. If you keep a positive attitude and focus, and eventually, yeah, the blinders come on, and you go, I don't care about the rest of this crap, because I know if I take care of this, all of that's going to be taken care of. Still a lot of work,
Right.
but you adapt to it. If you're a smart person and willing to sacrifice and go with it and take the hits,
Yeah.
it happens. It will happen. It's going to be a rough road, but like with my car things, build a better suspension.
Yeah.
You know, and
Always.
you'll get over the bumps.
Yeah. Always leveling up. And I think it's what you said too. It's, I think a lot of people that once they get to a certain point in the industry, it's entertainment or music, or it's a very humbling moment when you realize, okay, when you reach these specific goals or things that, you know, you've always dreamed about, or, you know, you got that big record or that show or the award. It's an eye-opening and humbling moment when you realize, okay, with the good, I also have to accept the bad, because there will be dark times, or, you know, bad months or bad years where you're doubting yourself. You're like, wait, okay, all these great, like, I've come so far, but now the universe is saying, hold on a minute, you know, you're not as hot as you thought you were. So
that happens often.
yeah. And it's like, you know, it's just such a trip sometimes. It's such a roller coaster. And I think if you could just accept that, and that's what I've learned over the past maybe 10 years is, look, there's going to be great times and there's going to be times that are going to suck and there's nothing you can do about it. As hard as you could make 100 cold calls a day trying to get as much business as possible. But that's not going to guarantee you shit. I mean, maybe you'll get lucky. That's a numbers game. But if you have a bad month and you can't, you know,
You mean like recently, 3 months without work?
Right. And
It's been fun.
yeah, I mean, I've had months where I'm just like, I have no idea what I'm going to do. Then you have to like dig into your savings, and then you're sitting here going, why am I even doing this? This makes no sense. Like, the money should be coming in. Like, this is a business. And it's like, wow. There's been times where I really get in my head. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Then I just think about kind of like what you said. It's like, look, this has been your life dream. This is what you do. Just accept that it's going to suck for a little bit, and then just do the best you can. And it will, you know, the light will come back. Plus, you got to dig deep.
Yeah. Those are the times when you really got to dig deep in who you are.
Yeah.
you know, and I'm not the type of person to give up on stuff. You know, I'll keep fighting until it either beats me or eventually you got to abandon it
Yeah.
and then just find another path. But to me, it's got to be in the same vein. It's got to fulfill my passions. And that's one thing I really love about my job. It's a passion now. At first, it was a good way to make money. It was creative. It was fun. Not too far away from music. I mean, sound is sound. But it became a passion because every time I would do something, and not that I'd get a pat on the back, but when I could appreciate what I did and say, that's badass, that's killer, I don't care what anybody says. When you're that satisfied with your stuff, it should motivate you. It should motivate you to go, well, you know what? Can I get to another level? Gives you that energy to keep pushing a little bit more.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, when we got the show Boys, at first, all right, you know, bunch of crazy superheroes that are like a little bit on the dark side. All right, the show was kind of like, oh, whatever. As it's progressed, it's become more and more difficult to come up with the sounds they want because it's getting more over the top, more gross, more graphic. And I looked at it and I go, this is a good gig. This is going to stretch us.
Yeah.
This is really going to test us.
Yeah.
And then when you get the feedback and go, guys, I almost threw up on that effect that you did. I'm like, yes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't care if I win an award about it. I don't care. It's just this show made me step up. It's like you want to do something cool, go after it. You know,
Yeah.
not always successful.
I think those are the moments that make it all worth it. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
when you challenge yourself, you struggled, you challenged yourself, you got the result after lots of hard work. The client loved it. Millions of people watch the show, like, and your work is heard by millions, and
Yeah.
everyone's happy, and you know, you learned from the experience, you leveled up. Like those are the moments that I feel like we live for as artists. The same, like,
I
you know,
agree.
when I hear when a client's happy with a record or a single or a song, and then other people are, you know, a lot of people listen to it and love it, and
Mhm.
you busted your ass and put a lot of hard work into it, and it challenged you, and then it works out. That's you know, everything to me. That doesn't happen all the time. It's like here and there there'll be great moments,
Right.
but that's what it's all about for me. So it's cool to hear that from you. So when you say, you know, you having moments where you're really stretching yourself to create these new sounds, like varieties of like things you haven't done before. Like what are some like some advice or some techniques you could give to maybe younger Foley artists or people trying to get into the industry, like just different ways to think about things or different techniques to try to like kind of step outside of your own box. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, like we have a trainee now who's doing fantastic. The kid, a 20-year-old kid. He's very bright, very attentive, has a great memory. But what I tell him is study the world around you. Because what we do, we characterize. When you go to a store, watch how people walk. Look at their feet. When you go out and you're driving, test yourself. I mean, there was a time where I'm driving down the freeway and I see a pigeon flying across, and I'm going, I wonder if I could hear it. Roll down my window, and as he flew over my car on the freeway, I actually heard his wings flapping.
Wow.
So it's stuff like that. If you think, you know, we take so much for granted in the real world. And, you know, we walk through life hearing all of this stuff, but we're not conscious of it. Take it away, now you're very conscious of the void.
Right.
And that's what I tell people. It's like, when you go out in the world, watch how people walk, because you're going to have to emulate that one day. Watch how they sip. Just study humans. Study what's going on around you. If you see a machine working, study what you're hearing. Remember that. Then when you get in the studio, try to duplicate it. What are all the components of what you just heard? And people just say, oh, well, sound is sound, you know, hand clap. Well, everybody does everything different. So if you can cop all those differences
Yeah.
and incorporate it in what you do and how you think, you're on a good path. Now, the other part is physical ability, hand-eye coordination, being in good physical shape and mental shape, because it's a frustrating gig, as we all know. Music, sound art, whatever. It can be frustrating. And again, if you're going to stretch yourself, it becomes harder. But you got to accept that. Don't give up on stuff that's hard. I mean, there's so many things that we do now, especially with James, my partner, we don't think about it because we've worked so well together and we've got the same mindset. And that's what I try to tell this, my daughter also, she works with us. She's worked with us for 5 years and she's become a really good Foley artist where she'll make a phone call, I need a gig. A lot of people will hire her because they know what she does. And I've given her that mindset. It's like, just study your environment. Everything's going to matter. Everything makes a difference. How you can recreate it, how you can reproduce it, how you can visualize it is the key to making it happen. But
sorry to cut you off.
No,
Are there certain so say there's in the show or the film there's like a giant I'm just throwing out a random situation here. There's like a giant beast that like falls, and for you need to recreate that without using some kind of library like enhancement. So for situations like that, where do you call in if you need like a specific like sized person or a specific type of sound? Do you call in like different artists that, or do you recreate how would you, okay, for example, how would you recreate like the sound of a like 7 foot tall person falling? You know what I mean? You just like stuff like that, because I'm sure
there's a lot of ways you could do it. I mean, like I've done body falls for these giant guys. Supergirl. When we did Supergirl, it was always people falling out of the sky and blowing the concrete apart. There's maybe 8, 9 elements to that in sound. The body fall, which should be heavy, big, low end. Fortunately, our stage, I have to say, our floor is basically tuned. There's a big boom area, and then it gets tighter. So there's something going on underneath the floor, but I utilize that. And that's the key about learning your environment. If you know what's going on in the room, where the sweet spots are, it's like when you're recording guitar. Maybe that corner's different. It's going to give you a different sound. So you're going to utilize it. It's the same room, but again, learning your environment, knowing what you're working with. So like something like that, I would make a big giant sound, and sometimes I take heavy sandbags. Boom, on the floor. Okay, that's one element. Well, what about what he's wearing? So we'll try to do like a cloth pass, or like if he's in a leather jacket, some leather creak as he's falling and then hit. That's another element. Maybe he injured himself, so we'll do a little bone break. Just, again, components of all that, of all the sounds. What are the components that make this big body fall?
Yeah. That sounds so fun. Just like
little grit.
Yeah. Just imagining all the different layers of audio you're stacking to get the multiple impacts of that. It's just like, I do that with sound libraries, but I very rarely ever like create that. You know what I mean? Because there's thousands of libraries out there, like royalty free sounds that you can buy and just stack up sounds for like a lot of sound designers use those, and like people that score for films and whatnot. But yeah, it's just fascinating to learn about all that stuff. So you're just in there all day just creating different textures and layers, and so I think I asked you this before when I was over in your studio, but what has been maybe one of the most challenging scenes you've had to recreate?
Well, there's two. There was one in the beginning of my career. I was working for a studio in Venice, and there was a killer running around with a drill, and he would kill people with the drill. So he's in the back of this Volkswagen. Person sits in the front seat, and the director asked for something really gross. I said, well, we got this. So I take the drill, and as he's going through the seat, I'm working the drill, and I'm like, jamming it up with my hand, so you get that slow motor sound as it's going in. Ripping the leather, hitting the springs in the seat, ripping through the seat, ripping through the body. Now that took about 5 different elements: a chamois for the wetness, some bone breaking, gritty gush, and then popping sounds as it's just going through the body. And then, of course, as the drill's going, I'm continuing the motor sound, binding it up. And then I just decided, you know what? I'm going to fix this up even better. I got a raw chicken. I threw some celery inside it. And I don't like using organics. To me, that's a waste of food. But it worked great. And I put the celery inside, and I'm just squishing it around through the whole process. Well, they got it back to the studio. They started mixing it. And even the mixer said, dude, this is an X-rated sound.
It's too graphic.
This is way too much. So, you know, when the director told me, I says, well, just eliminate a couple of tracks, and you'll soften it. He goes, yeah, but everything sounded so good, I had to use it all.
Good.
I was like, right,
Yeah.
Great. That was a challenge because at first, like I said, early in my career, I'm like, what am I going to do? You know, and then again, it just, the brain kicked in and said, well, think about the components. What's going on? And then Boys. More currently, The Boys challenges me all the time. I mean, there's some scenes in there that are so sexually graphic. And what they're doing inside that, it's not just having sex. I mean, there's some really gnarly stuff going on. And, you know, I don't want to be too graphic about it.
No, let's go.
Well, there's this one scene in last season, this guy called the Termite. The scene opens up, you see Barbie doll legs. And they're rocking like this. And this guy's having sex with a Barbie doll because he's only that big. All right. Well, he gets off the Barbie doll out of the house, out of a little doll house, and he grows to full size. And his boyfriend comes walking in, gives him a robe. Okay, cool. He said, let's go to the room. So they go up to the room, and they're snorting some kind of drug. I don't know what it was. And the guy sneezes. And I'm thinking, uh-oh. This is going to be really fucked up.
Yeah.
Well, he shrinks again. And all you see is head of this guy's penis with the hole. And the dude climbs up on the bed and he climbs in this dude's penis. Now, what in hell am I going to do about that? How am I going to make this sound really fucked up? So I did, you know, sounds when he's opening up the head of this guy's dick, climbs in, and all this gushy sounds like that. And he starts tickling the guy on the inside. So I have to do all of that, and I'm thinking, this is fucking gross, dude. This is sickening. He sneezes inside the guy's penis.
Even better.
And blows the shit out of this dude. From lower torso, everything just explodes. So again, now, how many components to that sound? You got shit hitting the floor. You got blood squirting all over the place. You got his ribs cracking open. I mean, it was gnarly gross.
I gotta watch this.
It was horrific. And I mean, I said, this is a cue I can't do with my daughter in the room. I just can't do it. You know, but you get over that. But that was one of the grossest things. And again, you know, I started scratching my head. I says, I can just go ahead and make it gushy, but they want it way over the top.
Yeah.
So I'm doing cloth rips, all kinds of shit. I mean, I must have put in like 8, 10 different tracks of different sounds, different components of the sound. And when it was over with, you wanted to heave. You really did. And even people who said that they saw it, they almost threw up in their house. And I'm like, okay, hit my mark. But it wasn't easy, you know.
How long does a typical, like those really extremely detailed, multi-layered scenes about, like, does that like a whole day or is that a few hours or?
That scene probably took us about an hour.
Oh, okay.
Once I figured everything out, because, you know, we watch the show first and do a cloth pass. So we've got to cover all their movements, you know, subtle little kind of hand pats and stuff like that in the cloth. So it gives us an idea what's going on in the show. Plus it offers us the ability to understand what surfaces they're on, what the ambience is in the room. So when we record it, how are we going to match that? Stuff like that. So we have a good beginning to it, we understand what's going on. As the cues come up, we have cue sheets. We know exactly what we're doing ahead of time. It's just that when you get to a scene like that, you take a minute, read your sheet. Okay, he wants blah, blah, blah. That's kind of gross. Okay, you watch it once or twice, formulate what you want to do, and then just go through the process. Okay, this one first. That one first. Play that back. Let's see what else we need. I mean, you guys do the same thing in music.
Yeah.
I got this great lick, but you need something to support it. And it's basically the same way.
So you kind of have a rough blueprint, and then when you go in, you have it planned out, like how many layers, what kind of techniques you're going to use ahead of time. So you just go in there and knock it out.
A lot of times that's true, but then again, a lot of times something will pop while you're doing it and go, wait a minute, let me add this. Again, keeping your mind open. Don't just put yourself in this one little box and say, well, that's it.
Yeah.
And I find a lot of new people now, they just stay in their little box. And I have a conflict with that. It's like, I don't care what the manual says. The manual is not everything. To me, that's just the basics.
Right.
If you're an artist, you know how to step outside that box, but yet use all the components in the box.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Of course. I mean, once you learn the rules and then you break them to create.
Or enhance them.
Yeah, or enhance them.
Either way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
major point there. Because, yeah, it's so easy to, like, you learn certain techniques that work and that you like and you're used to. And then when something comes along that really challenges you, you're like, okay, I don't know what to do for this. So I need to just go outside myself here and just think of something just more extreme or random or just take a risk and try something weird. And
well, it's like what they did in fire scenes in that Backflash, that movie. They used lion roars for some of the explosive flames. They just dip their hand in and go, okay, yeah, lion roar, boom. Did you notice it in the movie? No. You really didn't notice it, but it sure opened your eyes when those flames came rushing at you.
Yeah.
And they layered it with a lot of other organic sounds also. So, I mean, that's basically what we do. And I think I learned that from my many years of singing. I mean, I was a kid. I would sing in the water pipes when they were putting city water pipes in my community. And that's when I first saw West Side Story. I fell in love with it. So I'd sing Maria in these pipes, and the whole neighborhood was like, wow, who's that?
That sounded epic.
It was pretty cool. But see, I realized then I was looking for something different than to just sit in front of you and sing. I went boo in this pipe, and I went, whoa, look at the sound I can make.
Yeah.
Not realizing it was projecting through the whole neighborhood. But even at an early age, I realized, you know what? It's not just what's coming out of here. It's not just a pure sound. There's a lot going on in the environment. And if you can incorporate all that stuff, imagine where you can go with it.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And then learning all the different styles of music along my way. I mean, operatically trained. I did funk. I did soul, rock, combination of the two, some jazz, blues. With using all of those tools, it just opened my mind that, man, you can put anything together. Used anything from what your environment is, and you can make it work.
Yeah, when you
extreme experimentation.
Right. Yeah. When you said you came to LA to do the band thing, were you the singer in your band?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And what was the name of it?
The band we had at the time was Alliance. We were we were big hair. We were in that genre, but we had more of a gothic kind of sound.
Nice.
So that's kind of why we didn't really fit in, but yet maybe we were a little ahead of our time. I don't know.
So were you playing the Strip during the booming times when
you name it.
During the 80s? Yeah.
Oh yeah. The Country Club, Whiskey many times, the Troubadour many times. I mean, we did the whole gamut. And that's when I started getting kind of burnt out on it, because it was, in my personal opinion, it was nothing more than party, party, party. Let's do some coke. Let's fuck these fucking groupies. Even when I went on the road, after a while, I would just go to my room. You guys have fun. I'm tired of this shit.
So you got over it quick. Yeah, that lifestyle is like
It's a
either.
burnout.
Oh yeah. Oh
It's a
yeah.
total burnout.
Oh yeah.
And that's why I didn't want to be there.
Wow. So and you said you moved from the East Coast. So where did you grow up?
In New York, I was born upstate New York. We moved to Brooklyn when I was very young. So I got an eyeful and a cool, well, yeah, it was an experience. Living in Brooklyn was pretty tough.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
And then like when you move, so you grew up getting used to that kind of a lifestyle. Did you have any kind of, when you moved to LA, was it a shock for you in a different way, or was it you're just like I'm used to something crazier? Like was it?
I was used to more realism in people.
Oh yeah.
That's one thing I could not wrap my head around is the plastic in LA. I just couldn't wrap my head around it. And I think that's one of the reasons why it was hard for me to really land a good production job, because I'm dealing with all these plastic people,
Yeah.
They weren't real to me. And I'm used to, the New York attitude. It's like, we're in your face.
Yeah.
We'll tell you how it is. You don't like it? Fuck you.
Yeah.
So, playing that political game really took a heavy transition on my part. Matter of fact, I've been here since '79. I still don't feel like it's home.
So yeah, it's still like I've lived here my whole life, and I don't like the way it's like you said, it's plastic. There's a lot of, it just seems like people can't be just, there's some people that are, but mostly in LA, like people just aren't direct with you. It's always like beating around the bush.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah, I'll call you. Yeah, we'll
Right.
get together. Yeah, we'll do that project, and then you follow up and they disappear, or they like talk
Just
shit
blow you
about you
off.
or whatever. It's like, wow. So yeah, I always appreciate when I meet someone who is direct and means what they say and follows through. That's always like, I hold those people very dear in my life, because I resonate with that. Like I can't work with or be around people that just are, like you said, the plastic thing. So I totally relate with that. Yeah. So
I mean, even today, I've just learned that, you know what? I'm going to do what I do. You don't like it? Not my problem.
yeah.
And there's a lot of people who still think I'm assertive a little too much, maybe because I'm straightforward. But then, on the other hand, a lot of times I'll just back off. As far as you know, I'm just one of these little, I'm cool, I'm quiet, but in my head I'm going, fuck you. I don't want to deal with you. You're full of shit.
I get it. Yeah. Well, Joe, this for the last question of the podcast. This is like the themed question that I ask every guest.
Mm-hmm.
What was one of the darkest points in your career, and what did you do to overcome it?
Oh, boy. Let's see. Well, when my daughter was born, we had a condominium. As a matter of fact, the funny thing is every time I bought a house, I lost my job. Don't ask me why. It's like the universe going, fuck you.
Yeah.
I'm going to fuck with you now. There was a time where we moved out of the condo, bought the house I'm in now, lost my job. My father died. My daughter was not in good health at the beginning. And I was like, here I am with this new home. Bills up my ass. My daughter's not feeling well. What do I do? And I spent like 3 days in bed with hives, actually crying, because I felt I was lost. I thought the whole world was caving in. I'm fucked. I got a new kid. What am I going to do? That was a dark time, because I thought my career's over. Nobody's calling. And again, oh yeah, we'll get back to you. That's when I really realized, people in Hollywood, you can't trust most of them. The ones you can, you better hold close, because they will back you and you back them. That was one of the darkest times. I really thought, I'm going to go back to New York. Screw this. I can't handle LA. Can't handle the people. They're all full of shit. I'm going to lose my house. I'm going to lose this, that, and the other thing. It's one of the darkest times I think I've had. But then after that, I just went, again, fuck it. Road goes that way.
Yeah. So did you just kind of wait it out and hold on, and then something came through and you were able to get back on your feet?
Well,
And,
for a minute, and then I realized nobody's going to do it unless I get off my ass and start knocking down doors.
right.
And that's where the New York attitude came in. It's like, you ain't going to stop me, motherfucker. Here I come. So
Yeah.
that's
Wow.
pretty much it. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. I find that that's when the universe tests you in those moments, like you said. It's funny how sometimes, when it rains, it pours, right? Like you make a big step, or you make a big change, or you buy a house, or you get a studio, or you make a major change in your life, or a major commitment, or a financial risk, and then the universe goes, well, it's time to test you, or it's time to see what you got.
Right.
So yeah, I've had a few moments like that, not that extreme, but I've had times where I've just been like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to doubt, like doubting yourself. You're like, and you just kind of realize, well, I just have to keep going, keep pushing forward.
Right.
Like you said, you got to knock down doors.
Well, I mean, what's the alternative?
Right.
If you give up, it's only going to get worse.
Right. And then, yeah, you're going to, when you have a family, you don't want to let your family down. You don't want to let yourself down. All the time and years you put into your career, like you don't want that to be for nothing. So you have to just bust your ass. And it's really hard to, to get to that point in your mind where you're like, okay, well, now the only way this is going to get better is if I take control. And most of the time, like, no one else cares. Only you are going to help yourself.
Then you got to have a lot of faith, spiritual faith too. And I'm not talking religion, spiritual faith inside yourself. And accepting, like we've been talking about, what the universe hands you. If you understand yourself and know yourself, you can look in the mirror and go, all right, asshole, who are you today?
Yeah.
What's going to happen with you today? How are you going to handle your day? You have to ask yourself these questions. Otherwise, you're walking around blindly.
Right.
You're just letting shit happen. So if you know who you are, you know you're going to have those downtimes. So how strong are you spiritually inside yourself? How much do you believe in the power and the energy of the universe? And if you tap into that, it's always going to work out. It may not work out to the level that you expect, but it's like I used to tell my dad, what are you going to do with your life? You're a musician. I go, Dad, back up. I'm here now. My goal is here. If I reach here,
absolutely,
at least I'm not still here.
Absolutely. Right.
And a lot of people, in my mind, in my experience, they don't have that energy. Things hit them in the head, they fall down. Oh, I'm done.
Yeah.
Well, then you're done.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had a lot of friends that I went to music school with, and people I've met in the industry that, something comes along and hits them down pretty hard. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them haven't gotten back up, or just aren't doing music anymore, or they just move back to their state and get a normal job and the safe option. And it's like, right. I've seen that happen so many times, and it breaks my heart, because a lot of these people, like, they're so talented and they have what it takes, like artistically, but not like they didn't have that grit and that drive and that I won't take no for an answer kind of thing. Very true. I've seen that happen a lot. And it's just a part of part of the industry is like being able to just push through the hard times, and just know that with every good thing, sometimes you just have to watch out, because
it's as cliche as it sounds, every failure is another door to success.
Yeah. I like when people say just fail forward, because you're going to fail no matter what, even when you get to the highest level. Like, movie stars, there's top name movie stars that they audition for shit they really want. They don't get it. And they're like huge people. Like, and same thing with music. Same, like, everyone at the highest level is trying to get gigs, and it's like, you can't win everything. You can't win them all. So it's like, everyone is going through that. So yeah. Well, Joe, I loved everything you had to say, and thank you for sharing that with us. And
thank you for having me, man. This is very cool.
Yeah, well, I learned a lot, and it's cool to learn a little bit more about you, and I'm sure a lot of people are gonna be really like interested in what you had to say about Foley.
I hope it benefits some people out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
In whatever area you're in, I will focus more on the artists, because artists are sensitive people. And that's why we have a lot of people in your business, my business, that can't progress. We're sensitive. If you let those sensitivities rule you, chances are you're going to have a very hard time making it. You know?
So true.
Again,
So true.
search yourself, look at yourself, learn yourself, and let the failures come. It's okay. It's part of life, bro.
Yeah. So true, man. Thank you. Thank you for saying that.
If they need to contact me, they can contact me at Sabella Joe on Instagram.
Cool. We'll put your link in the description.
Cool.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Thanks, Joe. Cheers.
Well,